graduates. My name is Denise, and my son was an SPU student in June 2014. And speaking on behalf of myself as a parent, on behalf of all SPU parents, on behalf of the greater SPU neighborhood, I would like to also speak on behalf of SPU students of June 2014 and the Wazoo parents and students, as that was the original target of our case. I've heard the gratitude from the local people, national, and the international community, and I also speak for them. As you consider the sentence for this case, I urge you to remember the effect that Ybarra's aggravated act of murder had on the actual students injured or killed. This was an act of terror that affected hundreds of parents, students, and community members in Seattle, nationally and internationally. So many SPU parents and students hearing the news immediately searched the internet and, like me, saw photos of a barefoot, black-haired student laying face down on a gurney, and in horror and anguish, wondered if this was my child. Many parents endured the agony of silence and of not knowing if their child was alive. Many in the community were intensely traumatized by his actions and grateful that he was apprehended after killing only one student, because they could project the extent of his actions had he not been apprehended so quickly and had he completely executed his original plan. Many students and friends grieve the loss of a son or the brother of the Lee family and are still dealing with the effects of the crime. Many people affected are still dealing with the effects of post-traumatic stress, which includes nightmares and frequent, unexpected triggers. Our worldview of safety has been shattered, and our lives will never be the same. As the jury concluded, a low IQ combined with mental illness does not excuse a premeditated act of mass murder. A person suffering from mental health is caught in a lifelong vicious cycle. Their illnesses require medication and counseling. As the cycle begins, they begin to improve because of the medication and counseling. Then they stop the medication because they realize they are better. And emotionally, they don't want to continue with the side effects of the medication. Then, at that point, they begin to spiral down and become out of control. This is when innocent people often get hurt. And then the mentally ill person is forced to take the medication with counseling when they're apprehended. It's a broken cycle, and the cycle is broken in the mental illness person. And knowing this, for society's safety to continue, justice requires that Ybarra spends the rest of his life committed to prison and forced to the mental health care. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Mr. Lee does not want to address the court at this time, or can't address the court at this time. He did express to me earlier, I thought very poignantly, why he might not be able to, which is when he thinks of his son, he said, there's so much to say, it's hard to say anything at all. He did also express that it is his fervent wish that this is the end, that no other person commits a crime like this, and no other parent has to go through what he has gone through. Which made me think that perhaps there is a benefit to the very public trial that was held in this case, and even the media coverage, that perhaps we all can learn something about mental illness and its signs, and how such crimes like this may be prevented by the community in the future. And we can certainly hope. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Brandis?
Thank you, Your Honor. I want to publicly thank the Lee family for giving us just that small glimpse into the life of their beautiful boy. I know that that's a void that can never be filled, and we all feel sorrow for their loss. I also want to thank the Seattle Pacific University community who has shown such graciousness and love to both me and my client with the letters that they had sent, the art that they had sent, the love that they had sent to Mr. Ybarra despite the heinous acts that he perpetrated on their campus. That meant a lot to him and to his family. The court had the opportunity to review the defense PSR and the 3 sets of letters we submitted.
I did. I read your pre-sentence report, and I read the 3 sets of letters that you sent
Thank you, Your Honor.
from the many friends and family of Mr. Ybarra.
As the court's aware, the defense is not asking for an exceptional reduced sentence in this case, and the state is not asking for an exceptional high sentence in this case, although I think that the court could find a basis for either direction given all of the factors. One of the reasons that Mr. Ybarra wanted to go through trial was so that people would know who he was and where he was coming from. People could see the life that he had walked and the experiences that he had had, because so often we don't get an opportunity to see behind the veil. We never get to hear, very rarely, from people who perpetrate these kinds of acts. And with Mr. Ybarra, we've had an opportunity to look at his history from the time that he was a child, and we have seen the long build-up to that day on Seattle Pacific University. We saw the developmental delay that he had as a child. We saw the diagnosis when he was 7 of the diffuse brain damage, the static encephalopathy. We saw the communication disorder that he had with receptive communication that made it difficult for him to process information. We saw the traits that he had for obsessive compulsive disorder and for the autism spectrum. We saw the IQ of 70 that limited his future. And in the years leading up to the shooting, we saw the delusional and schizoaffective disorder manifest and bloom. The intersection of the criminal justice system for those suffering from mental health disorders is a travesty, and we as a community need to do better. We need to fix the broken cycle that Ms. Meese spoke so eloquently about. She described it perfectly. The lack of insight into mental illness from those who suffer leaves them vulnerable, and in Mr. Ybarra's case, led him to this heinous action. I wanted to read to the court a little bit from the letter that Joseph Portugal had sent. I think it really strikes at the heart of the life that Mr. Ybarra was leading and the difficulties that he faced. Mr. Portugal had met Mr. Ybarra at school, and they had gone to school together, and he noticed that Mr. Ybarra was out of place, and to some degree he took Mr. Ybarra under his wing, and they became friends, and he describes that in the letter. But what I wanted to talk to you about and to read that Mr. Portugal was able to voice is the struggles that he observed Aaron had. So he says, despite his own self-perception, people still treated Aaron as an outcast. I would encourage Aaron to keep his hair and face neat and clean if he wanted to impress a girl, because I knew he really wanted to have someone to love and be affectionate with, but that hope never came to fruition. Aaron struggled with communication, which complicated his ability to meet women and to find gainful employment. I campaigned for him at my place of employment and placed him in our housekeeping staff at one of our Seattle gym locations. A few months into this position, Aaron cried to me over the phone about the taunting he'd received at work from fellow employees. I did my best to guard Aaron and campaigned to transfer him to a new location. I managed to move Aaron around to multiple locations to try and keep him on our payroll, but his struggles with communication and mental capacity continued to prevent him from succeeding in his job as well as being accepted by his peers. at work. I recall one last attempt at helping Aaron find employment by hiring him myself as a laborer on a residential home remodel project. I gave Aaron very simple tasks, such as removing screws from a shelf. Yet even this simple task proved too difficult for Aaron to complete satisfactorily. This is the life that a person with the kinds of barriers that Aaron faced struggles with on a day-to-day basis. The prosecutor has asked for this court to sentence Mr. Ybarra to the high end and asked that the court do it even as a symbol. I would put to the court that symbols are not appropriate and that the court should be fashioning a sentence which is appropriate to Mr. Ybarra, taking all the facts and circumstances into account. And those that I want the court to look at are his lack of felony history, the fact that he did in fact suffer from serious mental illness and long-standing mental defects, that he did seek treatment on his own. For these reasons, I ask the court to sentence Aaron to the low end of the standard range of 1,077 months. I ask the court to waive non-mandatory fines and fees and assessment. And I ask the court to include in the judgment and sentence a recommendation to DOC about his placement, that he be placed in a facility at DOC that can appropriately treat and monitor his mental condition. I think that's important for the safety of Mr. Ybarra, and I think it's important for the safety of the staff and the other inmates. And that concludes the defense recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Ybarra, is there anything you'd like to say before I sentence you here this afternoon?
Yes, sir.
Why don't you go ahead?
Over the past 2.5 years, I realize I've damaged more than just innocent people. I've damaged the community, maybe the world. A lot went on around these times, and I've hurt a lot of people's emotions. I wish I could take back what I did, but I can't. One life was lost and still is, and I can't bring him back. Another one was injured very badly. I approached her and harmed her. She did not deserve what she got that day. Either did the others that I approached. But I'm glad that they all pulled through. I'm glad they all got away. I know Thomas Fowler was barely hit, but he was still shot, and I feel terrible for doing that to him. Tristan Cooper Roth, I'm glad he got to run out when he had the chance. Anna Sophia, I'm glad she got away without being harmed, even though she probably did emotionally, but no physical harm was done to her. I wasted 2 female students' time getting the tour from them. They were such nice girls. They did a really big favor to show me around, but I wasted their time. And thinking about the incident back in 2014, just a real impact on myself as well. I've been thinking about it a lot, and it was really hard, and even now. And now I hope I get the help I need to stop the throbbing in my head. I don't know what it is, but I hope it gets healed. And once again, I wish this situation never happened. I wish Paulie was still alive. I wish he had a future. I hope Sarah Williams has a future and moves on with their life. And one more time, I would like to say, I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry to the world.
Thank you, Mr. Ybarra. I think all residents of Seattle know Seattle Pacific University as a peaceful place in the Fremont area where parents send their adult children and many young adults go to learn, be part of many communities. The engineering students at Otto Miller Hall, students who play on the many well-respected sports teams, students of Christian faith, all of who appeared in this trial. And on June 5th, 2014, those communities, that piece suffered a destructive blow when Mr. Ybarra, you got out of your truck and you started shooting at unarmed strangers, which was, of course, the very definition of a cowardly act. I want to, on behalf of the state of Washington, I want to give my condolences to the Lee family. You lost a young man with great promise and a great future, loved by his family. And I want to wish well the people who were victims in this case: Thomas Stowler, Sophia Cortillo Hackney, Sarah Williams, who was seriously injured in this case when she testified, and Tristan Cooper-Rod, and the many other members of the community who testified in this trial and whose testimony was represented in this trial. You know, when shots ring out and it becomes clear that somebody is shooting, of course, the only rational act would seem to be is to run. And in a terrible tragedy like this, where watching TV or movies, we'd think that some kind of action figure might step forward to help. But in June 5th, 2014, it was engineering students, men and women, who ran towards the shooting and into the line of fire. And their testimony amazed me, how level-headed it was. They stepped forward and they saved the lives of Sarah Williams, obviously John Meese, Hannah Judd, and John Van Schenk, who came forward to help with first aid. John Meese famously took the weapon away and prevented future tragedies. John Van Schenk went to warn other students. The Seattle Police should be commended on the very rapid response they had. Had John Meese not been successful, there would have been continued shooting, and they responded very quickly as well. And I note in all of this, consistent with their Christian beliefs, there was evidence at trial that Seattle Pacific students spontaneously sent Mr. Ybarra letters of forgiveness. And of course, Ms. Brandis has referenced that. So this case now comes to a close and joins the growing list of local and national shootings committed by someone who had grievances against people in their lives and took them against people who were unarmed and unsuspecting. The list even locally is too numerous to list. And the question we always ask is why this happened. Why would someone decide to shoot and kill people they don't know as a response to grievances suffered by others in their life? An act which in any world that is reality-based is something only a seriously depraved coward would do. There's no clear answer to this. I think that one of the answers has been mentioned. The mental health care system is completely inadequate. People talk about access to guns being too easy. Of course, Mr. Ybarra legally owned the gun he had in this case. The legislature should be addressing these issues, but I noticed something here that I did not expect in this case, and that is a connection between the media and the social media and the mass shootings, where the bitter, the aggrieved, the mentally ill, and the socially isolated connect with other individuals. They read the psychopathic journals of Eric Harris from Columbine. They read about the ravings of the Virginia Tech shooter, Sing Hui Cho, and from others who engage in unhinged and bitter discussions about how they or their particular group have been mistreated and how they can get even. It's as if a cancer is traveling through fiber optic cables and the internet to others and infecting all those all over the country who greatly affect us with devastating consequences. Mr. Ybarra, in this case, I can only sentence you with the evidence before me. The verdicts of the jury: you've been found guilty of 1 count of murder in the first degree, 4 counts of attempted murder in the first degree, and 1 count of assault in the second degree. And the jury found that your actions had a destructive and foreseeable impact on persons other than the victims. You have a great deal of support from your family. I received many letters on your behalf. Your mother and your brother were here constantly, and your father, I think, was here as well. And many people said they had great memories with the life that they led with you. And it does appear to me, when you are locked up and medicated, that you can be safe, even productive. But while you were out, you made what I believe to be conscious choices. You made the conscious choice to stop taking your medications. You said you wanted to feel your hate. You made the conscious choice to tour the SPU campus to see whether you could perform an assault there. You made the choice to keep your plans secret, even from those you love. In fact, you talked to someone, one of the people you loved the most, on the day of the shooting, and you did not tell him about your plans. And as you wrote in your journal that day, when you had chosen to be off the medications, this is it. I can't believe I'm finally doing this. No matter how cute the girl or how cool the guy, I just want people to die. And so I conclude, while you're released, your decisions before the shooting and your secrecy make you extremely dangerous to be released. So I'm now going to give you a sentence that will keep you in prison for the rest of your natural life. You will never be released. Your sentence is for 112 years. That's 1,343 months. That's 347 months on count 1, 240 months on counts 2 through 4, to be served consecutively to each other and consecutively to count 1, 60 months firearm enhancements on counts 1 through 4, consecutively to all counts. Count 5, 70 months to be served concurrently, and the firearm enhancement on count 5, 36 months to be served consecutively. You're to have no contact with the family of Paul Lee, all victims in the SPU campus, and I'll make a recommendation to request of mental illness and the jail.
Thank you, Your Honor.
That concludes my sentence. You're to pay victim penalty assessment, the DNA collection fee, and restitution if there is any.
For the court, earlier today I reviewed with Mr. Ybarra his notice of rights on appeal and his notice of ineligibility to possess firearm and loss of right to vote. He has signed both of those forms and I'm handing them forward to the clerk.
Mr. Ybarra, as a result of this conviction, you've lost your right to vote, and you've lost your right to possess a firearm.
And they want the ink past the first knuckle, right? So make sure, like, you probably have to move your hand a little bit to get it in. And we'll just put it right there and press down firmly, okay? That's good, that's good, that's good.
Signing the fingerprint page, Mr. Ybarra puts fingerprints on. Here in court.
Some sturdy stuff. have it now.
Why don't you pass it? I know you're, I know it's coming. Why don't you pass it?
And Your Honor, apparently the defendant, what the board was required to register felony firearm offense.
I think we can take care of that.
And that's, and we've indicated on the order, there's apparently an instructional fee. We're getting a copy of that.
Why don't you pass it? It's kind of forward. Since he's never going to be released, he's never going to be able to register.
That's kind of where we're at, but.
Just as he's never going to be able to get his rights to a firearm back or right to vote.
So I will make sure that once you go to DOC that I send you all those letters. I think Rachel might be coming to see you tomorrow or the next day. I got a letter from Dr. Beaver today that we're sending to DOC about how to house you. And I actually ran into Dr. Muscatel today. And Dr. Muscatel's going to write a letter too.
All right, I signed the judgment and sentence, and it reflects my oral ruling for a total sentence of 1,343 months. That completes this matter.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So I just need a copy of the judgment.
You can take it back. I don't think we need to wait for the last one. No. It's only operable if he was ever released from prison.
And I'll work with his friends to make sure
No, he still has to wait for his stuff.
Thank you.
You said, Roger, you said we'll bring, you said we'll bring it. The judge just said.
He said they'll bring it up.
The judgment sentence? Is that what you're saying?
No, I think they're waiting for the firearm form, but
Yes.
I'm getting that, but I think the defendant is just simply waiting for a copy of the judgment. Thank you.
Okay.
we are recessed.